Hey everyone, this is Dr. B coming to you with another episode of College and Career Conversations. As you may notice, some of you usually watch me on Facebook. However, Facebook's been a little funky today, as we all have known. Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp have all had some serious issues. So I wasn't quite able to link my streaming to Facebook because that part hasn't been rectified yet. So hopefully, if you're watching this, you're watching it on my YouTube channel, or if you're watching it on Facebook, let me know because I couldn't figure out how to make sure that everything was going to run on Facebook. But because I'm using this wonderful third-party app, StreamYard, I have it connected to my YouTube channel. So I'm still able to come to you on YouTube. This evening, we're going to talk about one of those subjects that sometimes make people a little crazy, and it's the free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA. I mean, it's FAFSA. This is one of those words that you always stumble over and really have a difficult time pronouncing, but the pronunciation isn't as important as some of the information. What I'd love for you to do, if you're joining me this evening, please share it out with people. Please put your comments, questions in the chat box so that we can have a conversation about this. I will do my best to answer your questions. But again, I feel like I'm always learning more about this free application for federal student aid because it will be changing in a couple of years. Well, maybe next year. We'll see. So I can give you general information about it, but sometimes everybody has a very specific and unique case because it depends upon your family's dynamics, your family's background, your family's income and assets. So I am going to stop talking here and I will be back with you in about 10 seconds. Hey, and we're back here. Again, Dr. B, Steps to the Future. This is FAFSA time. And as I said, I just wanted to go through this again. So the FAFSA opened up October 1st of 2021 for our current seniors. So you may have heard this information before, but it's one of those subjects that you can never hear it enough. So if you know all of this, if you just sit back, relax, maybe you'll learn something new because I have a couple of other pieces in there. You may hear some rain and thunder in the background because we're just starting this like crazy thunderstorm. So if you see me jump up and move, it might be because I need to close this window over here. But right now it's such a great breeze. I don't want to get rid of it. And I'm hoping my power stays on and I don't lose you here. If we do, we'll just book it for another night. Okay, so let me get started. I am going to share my screen with you. Okay, so again, FAFSA time, and just going to give you some information about what is going on, what you should be expecting. So here we go. So here's a diagram that I really like because it kind of gives you an idea of what is going on when we apply for financial aid. So this is the financial aid cycle. So when you look at it, you can see up here, where it says, start here. So again, this is what you're going to do. So basically, families will complete the free application for federal student aid. In some cases, families will also complete the CSS Profile. And then sometimes, one of the other things people will be doing is doing private scholarship and grant applications. And the blue arrow shows you what happens when you submit your FAFSA. It goes to a federal central processing area. A student aid report is generated, which then gives you your expected family contribution. This is how colleges determine the amount of loans and grants they may give you. Your states may use this information also to determine their state grants. And this also covers federal loans. The red arrow tells us what happens when you do the CSS Profile. And we'll talk a little bit about the CSS Profile. Not a lot tonight because it doesn't affect everyone because not all colleges use it. And again, this is what happens, the green arrow, that if you apply for private scholarships and grant applications. And all of this information will go to your target colleges that will then create your financial aid package. And each college will do their own financial aid package. So that's important to remember. So let's look at the next slide here. So this is a document that the Independent Educational Consultants Association Committee on Affordability created. And it's kind of a step-by-step process on how to pay for college, where it gives you a question. So it's like, decide what your family can pay for college. And so it's one of those things where if you say this answer, then you need to do this step. If you say this answer, this is the step you need to do. If you're interested in a copy of this form, you can certainly send me your email either through the chat, or you can direct message me on Facebook if it's up again, or you can just send it to my email, which is drb@stepstothefuture.com, and I'll actually stick that in the banner so that you will have it, so that if you need to get in touch with me, you can get in touch with me. So let's see. Actually, my information is on the last slide, so you'll be able to see that. So again, and the flip side of this, which I didn't make a copy of, gives some general information on vocabulary. Okay, so on this particular slide, what we're looking at is just letting you know that for this year's seniors and anybody that's transferring this year, for the 2022-2023 year, that your family's 2020 tax returns are the ones that will be required. So it's important that you already have these done so that you have that information. Several years ago, the federal government went to a system that we call prior. So that means the income tax return from 2 years previous will be the one that is used to determine your federal aid and all of your financial aid eligibility. Here's the thing where it's really important to remember. It's the student's free application for federal student aid, and it's the student CSS profile, not the parents. Even though the parent will be completing these forms, even though I know as parents will be the ones, ultimately responsible for the bill if that's the way we've decided it with our child. So again, remember, it is for your 2020 tax return that is going to be used for this particular year. That's if your child is a senior. So please keep that in mind. So looking at the next slide, we are looking at the website that will give you the most accurate information when you're thinking about what do I need to do, or I have a question about federal aid. This is the Federal Student Aid website. This is the one that is run by our federal government, and everything about financial aid through the federal government, you will find your answers on this particular website. For example, at the top, you can see the sections where it's understanding aid, how to apply for aid, the complete aid process, and managing loans. It's also, you notice it's in English, and you can also get this site in a Spanish translation. So again, anything to do with the FAFSA. I'm going to be saying this word. I'm going to be stumbling over this word all night. So I might just keep saying the free application for federal student aid. And the key word there is free. You should not be paying anybody to help you do there is too much help out there, and no one really should be charging you to do this application. Okay, so again, keep this website in mind, because this is the website that is going to continue to answer your questions for anything for federal student aid. Now, one of the things that you need to do before you begin this process, students can begin the process by creating their federal student aid ID. Okay, so it's their digital fingerprint that's associated with their name and email. It's important that you guard this just like you would your Social Security number. This is the same ID that you're going to use every year that you're in college. Okay, so it's important that you hold on to this. If you do happen to lose it, there are directions on that studentaid.gov site on how to retrieve your ID, but it's really important that you do that. So the student will go in first on that studentaid.gov website and create their federal student aid ID. Then after they create an account, then their parent can go in and create, a parent or family member or guardian, and can create their ID after the student does. At least one parent has to do this. Both do not have to do it, at least one. Oh, it is lightning out here. This is like so much fun. Okay, so here's an example of what the free application for federal student aid looks like. So this is FAFSA on the web worksheet. And again, you can see here the URL. So if you want to download a copy of this document, here is the URL that you can use to download a copy of this document. And it's a good idea to do so because it's nice to be able to see what some of the questions are that you will have to answer. Now, all of the questions on the FAFSA online are not on this paper version. You will be doing your FAFSA online. As it says here, do not mail this worksheet. You will be completing a document online. But there are just some things I want to highlight out for you. So, for example, over here, we have a state deadline. It has the name of the state and a deadline. States use this document to determine their state grants. So if your state gives out any kind of financial aid, you need to know what their deadline is for doing this particular form. Now, yes, this form does open up. It did open up October 1st. That doesn't mean you have to get it done and complete it, right on October 1st, which we've already passed by. However, for some places, it is important that you get it done as soon as possible. So you'll see here for certain states, it will give you additional information about deadlines for the FAFSA. In my state, well, in the state I currently live in North Carolina, there are some little symbols there afterwards, after the NC. And what that is telling you is that in North Carolina, that it's important to do your application as soon as possible after October 1st, because awards are made until funds are depleted. So in North Carolina, it's basically a first come, first serve. And that's for state grants. Now, those are grants that the state of North Carolina will give out. And again, those are need-based grants because the FAFSA looks at your income and assets. Okay, for my home state of Rhode Island, it's similar in the way that it says there may be additional forms required. And it also says that that you need to check with your financial aid administrator if you're not sure. So again, when you get this form, when you download this form, read through the information, and that will help you when you go to do your actual online document. So let's see what we have on the next page here for us. Okay. So here's another thing that the federal government created several years ago. So prior to the creation of the IRS data retrieval tool, you would have to manually input information from your tax return onto your free application for federal student aid. Now, you know what happens sometimes when you're transferring numbers from one document to another. Sometimes numbers get transposed. Sometimes you put them on the wrong line. Sometimes something else happens. So with the creation of the IRS data retrieval tool, this was created in order to decrease those mistakes. So when you log into your account, there will be an option to use the IRS data retrieval tool. I strongly suggest using it if you're allowed to, for several reasons. And, we'll talk about those. And what it does is the information that is required on your free application for federal student aid that's required from your tax return will populate into your FAFSA. right from your income tax return. So it'll pull it over. Now, one of the things it doesn't do anymore is your income will not be on there, the full income. There will be spaces, but you'll know that that income pulled over. And one of the reasons for that is there were concerns about privacy, about, if someone did get a hold of your documentation, and they could get some financial information about you that you didn't necessarily want people to have. So again, this is done for privacy, but I strongly recommend using this retrieval tool. And probably the biggest reason is it may decrease your chances for verification. So what is verification? That's just another hoop that the federal government makes colleges and folks applying for financial aid jump through. So colleges are required to have, I want to say it's about a third of their applicants verify their financial information that they submitted. So this is additional documentation. So again, I have a hard time with this because you're asking people who are already poor and need financial aid to keep on proving they're poor. Like, how many times do I have to prove to you that this is what my income is? So I could get on my soapbox about that, but I'm not going to do it. And some people are ineligible to use the data retrieval tool. To find out whether or not you are, you need to go on to this site. Again, it's on the studentaid.gov site. And, you look for IRS data retrieval tool eligibility. So make sure you do that because it's important to know. And these are the kind of information that you want to know before you actually start this process. Now, again, if anyone's out there watching and if you have any questions, make sure you throw them in the comment section. If you're watching this on the replay, because I am going to put this on my Facebook page once Facebook decides to act right. And if you have any questions then after watching it, shoot your questions in there and I will definitely get back to you. So on our next slide, this is what happens. So after the student submits the FAFSA, the student will receive an email indicating successful processing. That's important to know because you want to make sure it's successfully processed. Now, you notice I have the word student in bold. That's because, remember I said earlier that the FAFSA is the student's document? So anything dealing with the FAFSA is going to go to the student's email, not to the parent's email. So families, you need to be having conversations with your student who is now college bound. Say, did you get that documentation? Did you get that email? Please let me know that you got that email, because in addition to getting an email saying it's been successfully processed, they're also going to get an email that is going to give instructions on how to access their student aid report. This is a very important document because you want to get the student aid report. You want to go through it. You want to make sure that the information on it is correct. If not, you need to go back into your free application for federal student aid account and make corrections. So it contains the numbers for the expected family contribution. And, people always ask, what is that? It's the number that the colleges use to determine how much financial aid they may award a particular family. The language is changing a little bit because we always said, oh, that's how much they expect you to pay. But I've noticed in some of the latest literature that it's just an index. So now they're calling it an index that the colleges use to determine it. It's a matter of semantics. The bottom line is, they're not going to give you any more money than they think you're eligible for. So again, make sure that you're paying attention to whether or not your student is getting that email, because as I said, the email will come to them and you want to make sure that you have checked this out. Okay, so here's just a snapshot of what a sample student aid report looks like. Where you see that purple arrow, that is the area on the student aid report where you will see the expected family contribution. You want to know this number because as colleges are awarding you any free money, you want to make sure that it's appropriate. And you can only know that if you know what your EFC is. In order to get a full PDF of this particular document so you can see what your student aid report may look like, please go to this URL here and you'll be able to download this sample student aid report. And it gives you some information. This, like I said, this is just a snapshot of half of the front page. So it's telling you your FAFSA appears to be complete. It wants you to review the data on pages 3 to 10 of your student aid report to make sure corrections and updates are necessary. So for this particular one, it says your FAFSA has been selected for verification. And it tells you where, that it's a process of where your school confirms the data. Your school has the authority to contact you for documentation, and they may ask for a transcript of your income tax return. They may ask for your W-2 forms. So you really need to pay attention, and you really, again, need to be having that conversation with your son or daughter or your child, with your student, to make sure that you have this information. Again, that expected family contribution, again, it's not the amount of money that your family must provide. Rather, think of it as an index. And the reason I'm kind of using that language now is because they will be changing to that language in a couple of years, maybe as early as next year. We'll see. And again, this gives you a little bit of a definition about financial aid, that it could be grants, free money that you don't have to repay. Work study, which is part-time employment. So students will have jobs usually on campus, usually around 10 hours a week. And that money, when they're paid, they are to use it toward their cost of attendance. And then the free application for federal student aid also determines low interest loans. And that's money that has to be repaid. So again, it's important to know what these terms are. It's important to know what to expect. And as I said, you can never hear this information enough, because sometimes, when you're paying for college, and we know college is an expensive endeavor. It's one of the biggest investments that we make besides home ownership. So you definitely want to make sure that you understand the ins and outs of it. Now, here are some changes that are coming up. They were supposed to start this year, but they're not going to start this year. Well, actually, they were supposed to start for 2023. So some will be 2023, some will be 2024, some may be 2025. We don't know yet. So it's important to just pay attention for those of you that have children that are underclassmen, that may be juniors now or sophomores now, because that's who it's going to affect. Pay attention to that studentaid.ed.gov website to get that information. So just here are some of the changes. It's not all of the proposed changes. They're going to shorten it. It's going to go from 108 questions to about 36 questions. They're changing the name of the EFC to Student Aid Index. For me, matter of semantics, it's the same thing. It doesn't mean they're giving you any more money. So this one is kind of interesting. So currently, when you fill out FAFSA, if there are two parents and they do not live in the same household and, have never been married and not living in the same household, the parent whose information is used on the FAFSA is the parent with whom the student lives with the most during the year. So if a student lives with one parent 51% of the time, that parent's information is what will be used on this document. If it's split 50-50, then the parents have to decide who they're going to put on there. When the changes take place, it's going to be the parent that has the highest income. So again, that's a change. Colleges are going to have to include all elements of cost of attendance on their website. So what does that mean? So right now, if you were to go onto a college's website, one of the things that you would see is information about how much it costs to go to college, to that particular college. It may have, set costs. So that would be tuition and fees, room and board. Those are fees. Those are dollar amounts that you don't have much control over. Now, room and board, you may have a little control over because there may be different tiers of housing options. You may want to live in the most luxurious residence on campus, which may cost the most, and so on and so forth. And for each college, it's different. So you do need to look at that. But again, if students are required to live on campus, then you've got to take into account that room and board. Then the other part are those things that aren't fixed. So that's like books, transportation, personal expenses. At one point you were buying your books from the college. That's the only place where you could buy your books. However, we know we can go on books online and buy books from Amazon, from half.com, from all these different places. We can buy books from students that had them the previous year. A lot of colleges now rent textbooks. You can rent them through Amazon. There are so many options now for textbooks that you can really control the cost of your textbooks, or they're not as fixed as they were back in the day when I went to school, where the only option was to go to the bookstore and buy the book and pay the price that the bookstore charged. Now you have many options. Transportation, again, that's not a fixed cost for you because you'll decide how much you're going to travel. If you decide to go to college out of state, are you coming home for every vacation, or are you only coming home at Christmas time? Are you living closer and, it's within driving distance, so it doesn't cost as much? You don't have huge transportation issues. Thank you so much for joining. If as you join in, please make sure if you have any comments that you put them in the comment section. We got a little crazy tonight because, for those of you that are just now tuning in, Facebook was a little crazy. They had a huge outage today, and right now my streaming service that I use is not connecting with Facebook. So I don't think it's streaming on Facebook because it wouldn't let me connect. But luckily, I'm able to do this on YouTube. So I'll make sure this video also goes back on my Facebook page. So anyway, we're talking about cost of attendance. So right now, the way it is, colleges don't always put the full cost of attendance in a way that makes it very transparent to how much it will cost to come to their college. So they're going to be required to include all elements of cost of attendance on their websites in a way that when you look at it, you know what you're looking at. Income protection allowance will be increased. What this is there is a certain amount of money that is protected from being factored into that whole eligibility piece. So that's actually good news. I think it's going to be increased like around $9,000, somewhere around there. I'll have to double check. So that's actually good news. I already said earlier that you should not be paying anyone to prepare your FAFSA. So they're now going to put this into law. This is the free application for federal student aid. You should not be paying anyone to do this. There is more than enough free assistance to help you through this. It really is not that difficult. If anything, you just have to sit down, be prepared, have the proper documents that you need in order to do it, and just take your time getting it done. So previously, and again, this is not for this year's seniors, so just remember that. So when these changes take place, in order to be eligible for any federal financial aid, males will not have to register for the selective service just to be eligible for aid. Now, they can still register for the selective service. It just won't be a requirement anymore in order to receive federal financial aid. So again, that comes up possibly next year. Everything's been pushed back a little bit. Another thing that I think is great personally is that previously, if a person was convicted of a controlled substance, marijuana or what have you, they weren't eligible for federal student aid. Starting with hopefully next year or the year after, 2023 or 2024, it all depends on when they put all these into place. That will no longer be the case. There will be some changes to professional judgment, Professional judgment, it gives colleges the ability to look at your financial aid situation if it changes, and they can decide to use their professional judgment and override some of the information. So again, but that doesn't just happen just because you decide that has to be extenuating circumstances. But I'm not going to go, because professional judgment is a conversation all on its own. Here's the thing: this item in red is one of those things that we are hoping, praying, protesting against everything, writing letters to your Congress people to let them know that you do not want this to disappear. So right now, if you have multiple children in school at the same time, that lowers your EFC. So for example, if you have two children in college at the same time, your EFC is about, the amount of your EFC is like 50-50 per child. Whenever they put this into place, that sibling advantage will disappear. So you will no longer have this advantage, which absolutely stinks. I wanted to say something else, but I'm trying to keep it professional here. So again, that's something that we want to really think about, and we want to see if we can do away with that. The CSS profile, I said I was only going to talk about this a little bit because it doesn't affect everyone. So the CSS profile is another financial aid document that probably about 100 and maybe around 180 private colleges use, and maybe 5 public colleges. One of the public colleges I know, UNC Chapel Hill, uses the profile, and I think the University of Michigan uses the profile. So this is a document. It's a proprietary financial aid form, so it's owned by College Board, and it's a document that private colleges and those 5 public university systems use to determine how they will distribute or how they will allocate their institutional funds. Again, it's their institutional funds. There you can go on to this URL that you see down here at the bottom, and you will see the list of colleges that are participating in using the CSS profile, because you want to know, because you want to make sure if a college your student is applying to requires that profile, that you get it done. The most important thing, again, is knowing what the financial aid deadlines are for each of your colleges. Just like the free application for federal student aid, the profile opened on October 1st. So you want to check on that, because it's a little, that this particular document is a little bit more hairy, a little bit more it'll make you a little bit crazier than the FAFSA will. So again, make sure you check on that. Now, when you apply to college and you get your acceptances and you get your financial aid award letters, one of the things you want to do is to be able to compare those financial aid award letters to see who's giving you the best deal. It's not always say, wow, I just got this $30,000 grant to this school. That's great. And I only got 15,000 from this school. So we've got more money from the first school. But what if that first school costs double what the second school does? Then that's really not that great, because you want to know what's coming out of your pocket, what your bottom line is coming out of your pocket. Okay. So, great if you get free money, but when you're being packaged with loans, you want to make sure you know either loans, or they're just saying, hey, you've got to figure out how to pay the rest of this. We're giving you so much in loans, you might have to take out more loans. So you need to know what your bottom line is. So on Big Future College Board, they do have this this nifty little tool, and there are some others that have it, which I will hopefully I'll get all those on my website so that you'll have access to them without having to search. So this gives you the opportunity to compare up to 4 colleges and to look at what college is going to cost your family the least. And now you may not always pick the college that costs you the least, because that may not be the college that is best for your child. But again, that's the conversation that you will have at home. So this gives you the opportunity to, look at tuition and fees, room and board, books and supplies, travel, personal expenses. So, some of this cost of attendance stuff I was talking about earlier. And then you look at any gift aid. Gift aid is anything you don't have to pay back, which is great. Then the self-help aid. So that could be student loans, that could be work study. So again, that's self-help. So that will give you the opportunity to calculate your financial aid packages to see which one is giving you the best financial deal. And again, then you'll have conversations. Another great tool that I haven't used much yet, and I'm hoping more of my families will use this, is called MyIntuition.org. And what they do is there are colleges that they have partnered with where you can go onto this site and you can input your information and get an estimate of what you might have to pay for that college, or get an idea of how much financial aid you might get from that college. It's a great idea if a college you're a student is interested in is partnered with MyIntuition. So this is a tool that you want to use. It, again, really gives you an idea because the creator of this wonderful tool has done a lot of work in collecting data and making sure things are up to date to help you out. So again, that's just another tool for people to use. And this one actually is not on my website yet for resources. So my goal is to, within the next week or so, to update that list. Now, one of the things I want to talk about, so some colleges have decided that because they're pretty rich, they have huge endowments, that they're able to help families whose incomes may not be enough to have their student attend this college. So happens to be the way Brown University has theirs set up. It's called the Brown Promise. So one of the things that they have chosen to do is to eliminate all package loans from all undergraduate financial aid awards. And then they also will determine need-based scholarship. So again, this is need-based. This is important to know. Need-based is what comes from your free application for federal student aid. So this is not merit-based. This is need-based scholarship that's based on your income. So if a family adjusted gross income is under $60,000, and the student has been admitted to Brown University, which is that's the key. You got to be admitted. They may get an award of this much money. So again, and this isn't a scam. This isn't real. This is real. And then you'll notice here on the chart, it changes. The higher income. Now, somebody may say, so why would somebody that makes, more than $200,000 a year be getting any need-based income? Well, what if at the time that they're applying, they have 4 children in college? So that changes things. So, because when you fill out your free application for federal student aid, they want to know the amount of students, the number of students, that are currently in college. They want to know like the age of the oldest parent. So, when you look at that FAFSA on the web worksheet, you'll see some of those questions on there. So again, be looking out for colleges that offer these types of things. Most likely they will be the most selective colleges in the United States because they have the largest endowments, so they can afford to do this. Probably should have been doing it all along, but that's another story. But again, think about that. So locally, so one of the things this actually came up in a conversation with some parents. So locally in North Carolina, we have a program called CSTEP, Carolina Student Transfer Excellence Program. It is an income-based program. What it will allow students to do if they're accepted into CSTEP at their community college, and their community college has to be a partner with this program. So here in Fayetteville Technical Community College is a CSTEP partner. What it will allow students to do is they will do 2 years at their community college as a member of the CSTEP program. When they finish and have their associate's degree, they will then smoothly transfer and become a junior at UNC Chapel Hill. What comes with this is wonderful financial aid, fantastic advising, all kinds of great information. So here's another way to lower your costs of college. If your student is interested, you need to get in touch with, and you could read more about the CSTEP program here at this URL. But again, it really is a fantastic program if your student has the type of grades that are needed in order to do that. So you need to check it out and see. For those of you in other states, check to see what kind of programs your local community colleges have with your 4-year institutions. I'm sure many states have similar programs, but I'm just pointing out this one because I'm here in North Carolina. So again, this is the CSTEP program, and it really works wonders for people who are able to take part in it, and it does help save money. So here's another thing that's coming up. So the College Foundation of North Carolina, and you might see the billboard sometimes on CFNC, they are having, so this is where I was talking about, don't worry about paying anybody to help you with your pre-application for federal student aid. They are having some drive-in FAFSA help across North Carolina on October 23rd, starting at 10 a.m. It's one-on-one FAFSA help from the safety of your car. So if you go on to this website, CFNC/pay for college/ they will give you locations where you can get that type of help. So it's really important that you take advantage of all the free assistance that's out there, especially if you have questions, because you don't want to make an error on this that may cost you some financial aid, especially free money. Another cool thing that's happening in North Carolina, and some other states have similar programs, is College Application Week. So October 18th to the 22nd, there are a number of private and some public colleges in North Carolina that are waiving their application fees during this week. That means you go on to CFNC in order to complete your application there. And it's better to do it there just to make sure that the fee waiver goes through. But you can go on to this website here and you can see which colleges in North Carolina are participating in College Application Week. So again, from October 18th to the 22nd, a number of North Carolina private and some public colleges are waiving their application fee. So again, you need to make sure you check that out because again, every little bit counts. For additional resources, you can go to my website, stepstothefuture.com/resources, click on paying for college, and you will find a list of financial aid resources on here that may be useful to you. As I said, I know I have to make some updates and I hope to work on that this weekend. So please make sure you do that. And here we are at the end of our presentation. So again, if you wanted any of the documents that I show, or if you need the URLs or you need something, this is my email. You can send me an email here. This is my website. I have other videos on my YouTube channel that you might find of interest. I would love if you go on and subscribe to my YouTube channel. So please hit subscribe when you go on there. And I distribute a monthly newsletter with all kinds of news about college and career readiness. If you are interested in getting that monthly newsletter, this is the URL in order to subscribe to that newsletter. Here are my my new coworkers, because everyone's work situation changed somewhat when COVID started. I moved home and have decided to stay home, virtual, working working from my back porch because it's really kind of a neat place to work. And these four fur babies are now my coworkers. This is Zeben, my 5-year-old baby. This is Cassius, my 9-year-old. This is Grace. She is so Grace is 6, I think, a 6-year-old. She's the diva. She kind of runs the house. And this is our senior citizen, Paulie Peanut. He is now 15 years old. He's not as big as that now because he has diabetes, so he's lost a little bit of weight. But again, please make sure you reach out to me if you have any questions. That's information on how you can get in touch with me, and I would love to see if I can help you. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't, but I will always try. Now, you folks know me. We cannot stop our conversation without talking about a book. So my book for this evening is called The Personal Librarian. Okay, you see that? The Personal Librarian is by Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray. This is historical fiction that is based on fact. So the personal librarian of J.P. Rockefeller was actually a Black woman who passed for white. Now, as I said, this is historical fiction. So the two authors used information that they found in archives and through their research, but created a scenario of what they thought conversations would be like. So that's why it's historical fiction, but it is based on fact. I've read a few pages. I had to put it down because I've got other books that I'm reading, but this is a great book. It's got some fantastic reviews, and I think you really should think about reading it and checking it out, either buying a copy or checking to see if your local library has a copy. So this is Dr. Belinda Wilkerson from Steps to the Future, thanking you all for either watching this live. I know it was really crazy because this will be the day that everybody will be talking about Facebook going down and Instagram and WhatsApp. Yeah, it's a little crazy. So we'll see. And things are slowly coming back online. So I thank you all for watching. I thank you all if you're watching this on the replay. And again, if you have any questions or comments, please make sure you put them in that comment section, and I will get back to you as soon as humanly possible. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you joining in this evening. Take care, and I will see you next Monday. Bye-bye.